Oh, yeah, I like to go crawfish day.
Yeah.
This is the Estacada Parks and Rec Commission meeting. We got a couple of our committee members on the screen, as well as City Councilor Katie. Good to have you guys with us. Let's go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay. Commissioner Sherman. Here. Commissioner Bellamo.
Here.
Commissioner Shebrel.
Here.
Commissioner Stanton is absent. And Chair Dodrell.
Present, thank you. So the first part of the agenda is the consent agenda, which is approving the meeting minutes of our last meeting on April 27th. Somebody have a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for March.
Thank you, Gina. Is there a second?
Second.
That looked like that was Vincent. Yeah. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you. And thank you, Taryn, for getting those minutes out to us. It's good to have a bunch of folks here. We appreciate your comments. And I know we've received a lot of comments already via email and through a survey. We have all of those in front of us, but this is a part of the agenda where we have citizen concerns and comments. So if any of you would like to take like 2 or 3 minutes to share your concerns, particularly if they're different than maybe what you emailed to us, I don't think it's necessary to repeat those if you've already emailed them. But if you have some other thoughts, or you just would like to verbalize your concerns, we certainly want to hear those. So this would be the spot in the agenda to do that. Anybody like to? All right, go ahead. If you could just go ahead and go to the microphone, just tell us your name and address. That's just for the record, and then share with us your thoughts. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, my name is Kim Thompson. I live at 580 Northeast Westview Lane here in Estacada. Born and bred, lived here, grew up here, went to school here my whole life, multi-generational Estacadian. So I know fully well what Campanile is all about. I do have questions about the wetlands, because it's, from what I've been reading, it's never been clearly defined what the plans were for the development for Campanile Estates from the very beginning for the city park in regards to the wetlands, and what did the developer obtain as far as his permits from U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Oregon State Department of State Lands. Did they receive a fill permit, a remove and fill permit from the Department of Lands? Because there literally is wetlands on Campanile Estates. Sorry. I have no interest in this other than this is my hometown.
Yeah.
My concern, I am fully invested in the growth in our town because we need it. It's tax revenue, it's city parks, it's new voices, new people, new faces, not only in our town, but in our city government. I, for one, depend upon my city government, the people who are elected to sit on the commission, sit on the council, mayors, people who work in the city hall, people who work for the city, subcontractors who work for the city. I have a little vested interest because Walker Disposal is my ex-boyfriend. So I do have some vested interest in what happens in this growth. And I think growth is good, but growth needs to be done correctly. And we are building our city. It's grown exponentially since I was a little girl growing up here. However, are we building it correctly? And are we building it wisely? There's a lot of growth going on. There's a lot of waterways and a lot of wetland areas that aren't necessarily designated or delineated as a wetland, but if you are developing or building on your own property and you have water, you must contact the proper entities. And it's not just those two entities. There's Fish and Wildlife at the Oregon level and at the federal level. There is a multitude of people that you have to go through to check and make sure that you're not tapping into our Clackamas River, the Johnson Creek watershed, Johnson Creek Basin. Campanile Estates is on Foster Creek. Foster Creek does have some wetland delineation. Kern Creek also has wetland delineation, and Kern Creek the mitigation in place with the Army Corps of Engineers. My
Okay.
question to the city and to the commission is, what plans were imposed by these entities? Are the permits still valid and good? Were permits obtained? Who from our city or the Parks Rec Commission or the Planning Commission is the entity that is making sure these are being enforced? Making sure that what they say they're doing is actually what they're doing. Because when you build a city, you have to do it correctly and you have to build your infrastructure correctly. I worked in title, I've done development, I helped build in Portland and in the city of Gresham. I have hand walked plats and subdivisions from the very, very beginning to acquiring land all the way to getting a county surveyor to sign off on it.
All right.
So I'm very knowledgeable in what I'm talking about, but I have these concerns because I'm not sure what's happening. And I've been trying to locate that information on the city website and I can't find it yet.
Okay. Kim, I appreciate your comments and I will obviously be able to respond fully to that, but here's what we'll do.
Obviously.
We will direct staff to verify the questions or answer the questions you asked. In my experience, both as a previous mayor and a city councilor, I know that there's no development that goes in Estacada unless the developer dots all the i's and crosses all the t's. That's their job in all those entities that you've already referred to. So that's my assumption, but I think we can verify that through the city staff. So Taryn, if you can make note of that and make sure that the city manager knows about that as well. And again, your concern is particularly the Campanella Estates park and the creek running through there in that area.
Also, well, there's a lot of discrepancy in what I've been reading about Campanella Estates from the very beginning, because we know this has been a discussion, the splash pad has been a discussion
Yeah,
from the
right,
very beginning. My
right.
question, you're going to have a splash pad in a park that has a wetland on it. Where is that water going to go when it's disposed of? Because it has to go somewhere.
Sure.
Two, I also have concerns about Wade Creek, to be honest, but that's a wholly separate subject.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So
But, yeah.
well noted. We appreciate you bringing that
thank
to
you.
us. And yeah, and I think that last comment about a splash pad on a wet area is probably worthy of some good research. So we will follow up on that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Appreciate
for
your
taking the time.
comments.
Appreciate it.
All right. We do want to take the time if there's any others that want to express verbal concerns. We certainly want to hear them.
And on mine too. There's a hand raised on mine
Okay,
too.
we'll get to those that are zooming in as well in just a moment, but go ahead. Your name and address.
Sure, it's Tracy Udy and it's 165 Northwest Hill Way. Couple of things that I have concern, I have many, some I did already email on. But one that I don't know that I've seen brought up is fire apparatus. Do we have on these streets on Broadway, and I'm not sure the other road that the park, the dog park will run on, but do we have something in place for that to know that we can make sure that a fire truck is able to get down that road? When you've got cars parked on both sides of the road, is the road wide enough? Are we looking at no parking signs? What do we have in place for that?
I'm going to ask staff to verify this, yet my understanding is anytime a development goes in, that is one of the primary questions. And that's why there's often on the narrower streets, only parking on one side or no parking at all. So all of that is taken into consideration when the development is presented to the Planning Commission. And the fire district also is part of that discussion as well. So again, I'll assume all of that has been taken into consideration. The challenge, of course, is you can have a narrow street and no parking and people park on it, and that's when you have the problem. So that becomes more of an enforcement issue than a ordinance issue, for to say.
Correct, and so that would bring my next question is, if they do end up putting in no parking, who is enforcing it? What hours is it being enforced? That's all very relevant.
Yeah, indeed it is. And certainly we have Clackamas County that we contract for our sheriff services and they would be the enforcement agency. So this is one of those things that as a park is developed into that area and we have problems, I'm sure we would be in discussion with Clackamas County about We need to fix a problem. And that's an ongoing discussion, not necessarily between the Parks and Rec Commission, but the city council and the Clackamas County Sheriff. Good
And
questions.
Do we have a plan in place to bring in more enforcement? We're gonna bring in a park, a large park at that. Who is there, who's going to be there to enforce all the ordinances? So when you say we've got a noise or, drugs, the crime that it's gonna bring in, who's gonna be there to enforce that for us? Because as citizens, I'll tell you what, I have no problem enforcing. But
Yeah.
I know that's probably not the best route to take. However, if
not.
I don't have the enforcement, it will
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. And so again, as Parks and Rec, we don't have that any say into Clackamas County in that contract that the city council has or the city has. I do know, being on the budget committee, that they just approved a budget for an additional officer, anticipating the growth of the city. But I would ask you to just go ahead and voice those concerns directly to the city council so they're aware of your concerns, particularly in that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys have, the other thing is, do you guys have like any kind of speed control that you guys are planning on putting in once this park is going in on Hillway, on Broadway, on these through streets to the park?
Yeah, good question. And that's frankly something we haven't discussed. And that again, we are the Parks and Rec Committee, and there's the city staff and the Transportation Department would be a part of that. But again,
But you would collaborate with them.
Sure,
being part of
certainly.
City Park.
and there has been discussion among the Parks and Rec Commission about the traffic issue. We're well aware of that, particularly on the narrow street that runs right through this park and how we're gonna deal with that. So that's a good question as well.
Another question is privacy, the fencing that backs Campanella or the Campanella Park. So current situation is HOA says, hey, city put a fence in, here's where you're at, you get just what's placed there. You may not put slats in that fence. You may not build a fence in front of that. You may add shrubs, approved shrubs to that. So privacy for homeowners on that green space. I have a small dog. What happens when I back the park right now that's currently there? I have little kids putting their hands through my fence all the time because I have a cute white fluffy dog and that's great. But he is getting older and he will end up biting a kid.
Right.
And you've got parents that don't watch their kids. I have people constantly checking out what kind of items I have on my backyard. So what is put into place for that? Is that something that you guys will be working with the HOA to determine a solution for that? And at whose expense will that be?
Yeah, we talked about that last time because I run back there all the time and I can see into all your yards. I feel so bad for all of
Yeah,
you.
it's horrible.
So we've talked about that too, and we don't know because it is the HOA, but that's something we've talked about too. That is
And-
very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been a discussion I've had with the city manager, and she's well aware of that. And so the city will be working with the HOA to try to mitigate that problem. And I think it's certainly something that's fixable. It is a problem, and I think we can address it.
Okay, and will that be at the homeowner's expense or the city, the HOA? Who would be flipping coin for that?
Yeah, and I can't tell you that exactly. I have my opinion, but I'm just sitting in this seat. I'm not the decision maker.
And then a concern for the splash pad that I have is just with the weather here in Oregon, the minimal use, so it's super seasonal. And what kind of cost is the city putting into building this splash pad for the, say, 2 months that we get use out of it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's been interesting for me. Again, this whole splash pad idea started years ago when I was on the city council. It's like it gained all this traction. And so just the other day, I had somebody call me and say, when's the splash pad going in that was, quote, promised us? So we recognize that. And we honestly don't know what the cost of that is. At the draft or the drawing that has been on the website, and I think you guys all have the revised version of it. It's just a draft. We have no idea what the cost of it is. And as many of you know, once you start determining the cost, a lot of features end up disappearing
Yeah.
simply because of the cost. So this is like that wish list that was put together, frankly, over the years from input from community. And sadly, long before many of you had homes in that area. So So all that to say, don't think that this plan somehow we just hatched a few weeks ago. It's been in discussion for years and years with a
Right.
lot of community input.
And I've been in I didn't just move to
Yeah.
Estacada. I've been off Wildcat for many years.
Sure.
And we've utilized Sway Creek and especially like when it was put in and whatnot. So we've been in the area and I've attended meetings and I've seen and I've went back and read, back to 2015
Sure.
even when it was being talked about. So I went and read meeting minutes to kind of get to speed on
Right.
some of the stuff that's going on. How about the sports core? I mean, we've got the high school, we've got, if you want tennis courts, you've got basketball courts at how many different schools that are in the area. So what would be the purpose in putting yet another?
And I
sports
think you'll
court?
notice in the revision, it shrank and it's pickleball courts and it's not basketball courts because even in the revision and the discussion leading up to the revision, we recognize there's a lot of outdoor basketball courts in Estacada already.
Yeah.
Okay, so that has been, I guess, duly noted. And again, the ongoing question for the Parks and Rec is pickleball, are pickleball courts a good use of that space? Yeah. So again, those are good questions. And we're trying to respond to those concerns.
Isn't
And
pickleball and tennis can't use the same court? I don't know.
well, they already do
Oh.
by the school, yeah.
They're fine then.
Okay.
Just
Good.
my opinion.
Anything else,
Yeah, that one
Tracy?
can go away. So one other thing, with the new park going in, do you have a plan on bringing in more seasonal workers to maintain that and enforce the park rules? Like just in the last week, and it's been nice weather, I've noticed overflowing garbage on the sidewalks, like there's just trash everywhere. And I'm talking a little tiny park. So if we can't maintain that, how are we going to maintain an 8-acre park?
Good question. And that's an ongoing discussion that we have with city council. If we're going to do this, can we maintain it? So that's a
Yeah.
valid question. And that's a question we always ask the city council.
Yeah, we got to be able to maintain it. We
Sure.
can't slam something in there. We have a very strict HOA. We're fined for every little thing. If I, leave my trash can out an extra day, so I'll be damned if I'm going to allow some other people come into the area, even though that is a city park, and trash it when we do everything to keep our area nice and
All right.
clean and safe.
Thanks, Tracy.
One other question, actually. Sorry.
Okay.
The back spacing. I got lots of questions, but I'll just, okay. The back spacing. So where you're placing things, let's say the pickleball court, is there so many feet? Because these questions did not get answered in my email. I had a very blanket, just very vague response. So I want to know, like, how many feet do you have? Is there like a setback rule on some of these features that are going in?
To my recollection, there's not a specific setback amount for park features. One of the revisions that was made is the sport court got smaller and if you look, there's some dotted lines. So the plan was to put up a berm that would allow not just a visual barrier, but even a sound barrier. So again, that concern is a valid concern and the revision is trying to do something towards that.
Now, how tall is this berm supposed to be?
Yeah, I
And
don't
really,
have,
how effective?
I don't have
being
all those
honest.
details of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I would think that there would need to be something better placed than a berm for a sound barrier.
Yeah, and when we talked again, the person that designed this, not just a berm, but some shrubs on the berm again, which would be higher. So I guess in saying that, Tracy, I want you to know that those concerns that were in the email, this is our first attempt at addressing those concerns. All
Sure.
right.
No, I
Okay.
understand, and I'll look forward to hearing the responses as you guys meet and
Good.
figure things out, and I will be attending additional meetings, and I won't ask you any more questions, even though I have a whole book here. I'll wait, but I did have the fire marshal, I did get in touch with them and ask them to come out, because I am one of my really big concerns is how are they gonna get back there in the event of an emergency? And how is it gonna be policed?
That's an
Because
absolutely valid
someone
concern.
can lose their life, they can lose their house.
Right. And if you have more questions that need to be asked and answered, please email them in because we get those. Those go to the city staff and they're right in front of me now.
Okay.
So those will be things that we continue to consider. This is the second revision. There's going to be more trying to address all those issues. Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
Thank you.
Good,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Do we have some people online that want to make some comments?
Hi, my name is Christy. My address is 899 Northeast Wildwood Drive here in Estacada. And I did send in an email to Melanie. She suggested that I attend this meeting. I attended last month as a voice for making sure that the park is, for all abilities. I just want to make sure, I just really want to make sure that, we're holding this park accountable for being, available for everybody. And what I mean by that is everybody, like all abilities. And that's no bark chips, no structures that wouldn't allow wheels on it. And I'm curious to know, because I know that's not everybody's expertise. If you're working with an organization to help with those suggestions, are you inviting citizens to do that? And really, I'd like to know your process on what the thoughts are around making this an all abilities park, because I know that with my daughter in her wheelchair, we can go to Wade Creek Park, but she can't go in the bark chips. She can't play on the play equipment. So it's really limited for her. We don't really frequent that park much because of it. And Timber Park is the same, which I know is a PGE park, but that, we can't access any of the play equipment. So I personally, as a citizen of Estacada, would really appreciate having a park that I can feel like my daughter is welcome at.
Thank you, Christy. I'm going to let Gina respond to that.
Thank you. Hi, Christy. Christy, were you the one that had a connection with Harper Park?
Yeah.
As well? Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Because I wanted to make sure we had your contact information. I was thinking about you after that meeting. That is something we've talked about a lot. It's important to me. I'm a teacher. I've had kids in wheelchairs and they have to go just sit there. It's not right. So that is something, it costs more to do like those surfaces, but there's definitely things that's something I'm passionate about. So definitely we're thinking about it.
Yeah, I
was-
know that it's a cost, but you know what I mean? Like when I
Yeah.
hear that, it's like, yeah, it's a cost,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't even be a question, because when you're putting something like bark chips into a park, you're already alienating a group of people who can't use the park.
I
So that's,
agree.
my concern.
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely the little playground that's already there would be staying. Bark chips would be my assumption. I don't know. But for the new playground, that is something that is important to me. And Christy, can you make sure that we have your information? Because I know aren't you on like the board or something?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
on the board of directors for Harper's Playground, and get you in contact with Cody, the executive director. But I did send in my information to Melanie through an email, so I'm sure she would be happy to forward that to you.
Perfect. I'll get it from her. But that is something, and again, like we just give our input. We don't have like a ton of control, but that's something that's really important to me. So.
Okay, thank you. I
And,
appreciate
and this whole group really, I mean, it's something that we talk about quite a bit.
Yes. Yeah, Christy, we've all talked about that. It's not just Gina that this is important to.
Sorry.
And I actually made a phone call, gosh, this was probably a year or so ago, to the Harper's Playground group. I don't know exactly who I talked with, but let him know that we were interested. And Christina Richards from the Chamber of Commerce, who's the executive director, actually shared with me some potential grants that are available for these sort of playgrounds. So we're all over that, and we will be recommending that to the city council because they make the final decision.
Great, thank you.
And we're looking forward to your help.
Yeah, I would love to be of help.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else online
There's
there?
another one.
Hi, my name is Natalie Rames.
Hi, Natalie.
Hi, I live in the Campanella neighborhood. And I understand you're asking people to email in. a lot of my neighbors, as well as myself, have all emailed in and have received back the same generic statement from you guys. So I think our major concern is that we're widely being unheard. While I understand that might not be your intention, I do believe that that's kind of what's coming across to all of us.
Thank you, Natalie. Maybe I should mention the process. So when the city asks for email comments, they go to the office staff, the city office administrators, and we don't pay them to respond to all those questions other than thank you for the input. And then it comes to us, and we will be the ones that responded to the questions and or adjust the plan because of the questions. So I've tried to address some of the questions tonight, and I've been wading through all of the comments, and if there's some others that don't get answered tonight, I'm certainly willing to email back or even in future meetings, answer those. This park is not going to be going in for months. And so we have lots of time to respond to the questions. We want them emailed so we have a record of them instead of just the verbal comments.
Okay, that's understandable. I wanted to address, as well as echo, I guess, it was already mentioned earlier, the amount of traffic that the park will bring and invite into our community. I'm not sure if any of you are aware of the current crime rates that we have in our community, but we've had a very large issue with people trespassing, coming into our neighborhood at very odd hours of the night. There's been a lot of theft, and I think a concern that a lot of us have is that this is going to just invite additional people into our neighborhood to surveillance our homes. And, you know, it's a big welcome sign, which obviously we're enjoying being a part of Estacada, but that's obviously a huge concern for a lot of us who have young kids. We have some single individuals in our neighborhood that live alone. And so I'm just concerned that this is also just going to increase crime that's already occurring here without this big of a park.
And Natalie, that's a valid concern, as I think I mentioned to Tracy, who made a comment. I know the city council has made a decision to bring on additional officers, not just for Campanile Estates, but for the whole city as the city grows. So it's one of those growing pains that the city council ultimately is responsible for. If we're going to grow in population, we need to grow in our security or police protection. You are absolutely right. This park will draw more people to that area. Otherwise, like, why put a park in? We want people in the park. So I recognize that. And so again, we will be working with the city council to recommend additional staff or something else to make sure the park can be secure. But that's a valid concern. I would have the concern if I was living in that area as well.
Okay. And I have not seen an updated revision of the current park plans. And so I'm not sure at this point in time what has been added or eliminated from the plans. However, I did want to talk to you guys about the cornhole courts, if they are still intended on being added.
Actually, they got eliminated.
Okay. Okay, then that answers that question. Something else that I'm concerned about is the proximity of the proposed parking lot to the splash pad. As a mother of a young child, I would really ask you to consider what a dangerous situation this could create. You're presenting child predators with a prime opportunity to park and surveillance our city's children or photograph them. This is also why I believe it would be really dangerous to put a changing room on premise as well. I feel like there are way too many opportunities for it to be misused, including the fact that there will be no regular monitoring of these facilities. And that's precisely what I feel makes it unsafe.
They did move it quite a ways. So it's back now. You know where the picnic cover area is?
Yes.
And the picnic tables. So, and where the path like Y is right there, it's back behind that, like back against where the church parking lot is.
So is
So
this
it's-
the splash pad or is this the changing room?
That's the splash pad. I'm looking for the changing room. I feel like it went away. Is it there?
Yeah, I'm not quite
Like, I'm
sure.
not seeing it.
Yeah. I think certainly the changing room is one of those optional things. But again, the relocation of the splash pad I think helps with a lot of things. It puts it as isolated as we can from any homes.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
up against a chain link fence to the parking lot of the LDS church. So it's as
And in
far as away as
regard-
we can get it.
In regards to the parking lots, do you still have those located in the original places as well?
Yes,
Okay, and it's still 2 of them, 1 on each side?
correct.
Okay.
And I think changing room is being used. I think it's just going to be another restroom. And I think they're calling it, that's my,
Right.
yeah, not like a locker room situation. I think it's
Okay,
just going to be like another bathroom, like is already there, another restroom.
Okay, yeah, I had just seen on the original plan, it was noted specifically as like a changing room. So that was my concern.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I have 2 little girls too. So that's a great concern.
Thank you,
Okay.
Natalie.
Thank you.
Hey, Summer.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Summer Peterman. I live at Campanile Estates at 224 Northeast Liberty Lane. And I just wanted to share my thoughts. I am excited about some of the potential that is introduced. I think it's great to have a park there, but my concern is that this park has become kind of the catch-all park where you're just throwing everything at it, where I think that a really big part of this park that I think a lot of people are getting enjoyment from is the natural area and the naturalness of this park. And so I would like to encourage maybe some development only in part of it and keeping the rest of it kind of a natural area. I don't think the dog park is a great idea. I think the dog park is going to end up being very small. And we already have a lot of problems with nobody picking up their dog poop. I think in the summertime, it's going to smell really bad depending on how many dogs use it. The garbages are rarely emptied in the dog poop bins. And so I'm very concerned about how that corner is going to lose its appeal. I also am kind of wondering why we're putting in that athletic loop when there's already a cement loop. It just seems really redundant. And again, it's taking away that natural appeal. And when we have that natural trail over at the school, which really could use more maintenance to be used comfortably, I mean, you try to walk on that trail and there's blackberry everywhere. And I think that I'm also concerned about the transients that live on the school property and how that is going to be moved into the park and be creating more of an issue. So again, I'm just reiterating, I know that it's not up to you guys about public safety, but that is a huge concern. And when you're building a park, I kind of feel like public safety is should be a huge concern. So
Yeah.
those are just my thoughts, but I appreciate you guys giving us a chance to share them.
Thank you, Summer. Maybe just a little bit of history as well. A long time ago, because I lose track of time, when this park was being considered, the Parks and Rec was asked, what would you like in the park? And so we put all this cool stuff in the park, not knowing exactly how it was all going to fit. So I'm not sure where the Parks and Rec Commission is going to come down, but I think your assessment is right. There's probably too much in the park. So that's a valid concern as well. Thank you, Summer.
Thank you.
The dog park is interesting. Hey, Taryn, was this survey sent just to people that lived in Campanella, or was it was on the website? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else online? All right. Any other comments from those here? All right, go ahead. Thank you.
My name's Tiffany Reynolds and I live in Campanella Estates. The only question I have is a bunch of us own property that is in the premium lots, which backs up this green space. College never told us about this and they charged us premium rates to back of this green space. I know that's not your guys' problem, but what is the recourse we have for paying anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 extra for our homes that now are going to not back green space, but back a park that we
Yeah.
were not told about?
Yeah, and when I read those in the emails, my gut kind of wrenched. from the very beginning, the developer was mandated to give the city land or to have land available for a park. So from the very beginning, they knew a park was going in here. So if it was misrepresented, yeah, sadly, that's a legal issue with the developer.
So as residents and homeowners, we would have to then do a class action against Polish.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
give any
you can't
legal
answer that,
advice
but-
because I don't have any to give, but.
Yeah.
But I'll just say I'm sorry about that. But again, as you look back through the minutes of this commission and even the master plan for parks for the city, it's always been going to be a park. It never was just open green space.
Okay, thank
So.
you.
Are you going to drive it home and be the last one or?
Hi, I'm Pat Michaud. I live on Forest Park Lane.
Yeah.
I left Park Rose and I had a huge off of 122nd and Halsey. I had shootings, beatings, drug deals, people jumping my fence constantly. When I came out here, just like everybody else, I bought to be up against a green space. I feel so safe. I don't even have a secure alarm system anymore here. Now I'm getting a park. I'm getting things right behind me, spotlights, and I love kids. But that's not the purpose I bought out here. This is a city park and we're a neighborhood. We are so close. Our dogs are getting to know each other. We're getting to know each other. And you're bringing in, I mean, I love Estacada. I have people out here I've lived with and grown up with into a neighborhood. When there's schools, Timber Park, all this land, why not make it available and bigger and better for everybody else? Why pick on us? Thank you.
Thank you. And please know the intent was never to pick on anybody. Yeah, and again, the master plan for the city for parks was made with the intent that the parks would be an asset. And I do believe that as the park develops, whatever form it takes, that the security and safety issues can be managed well. And again, that's something we're always reminding the city council about, both the maintenance and the security.
But it's nice to open up and sit on your deck and look at the store, see the moon, hear the frogs. Once you get all that stuff put in, I'm gonna be back in the city.
I understand.
Oh my God.
I understand. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I live on a street with a street light on the corner. Yeah. All right. All right. You're going to drive it home, be the last one?
My name is Julie Peterson and I live on Forest Park. And my first question is, if this was a set plan from long ago, why would you even let somebody build residential homes next to a park you knew you were going to build? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. How would you feel if somebody came to your yard and said, we're going to put a splash pad in your backyard? It's going to accommodate all of Estacada. It's going to be great. I know well enough to know you guys would say no. There's no way you would let that happen in your backyard. So first of all, Estacada should have never allowed Campanilla to build where you had intended on building a park. And that's, I don't know whose fault that is, but that's someone's fault that she needs to take ownership in that. Secondly, the security cannot even be obtained, fixed, corrected now today. With one officer is not going to fix the problem we have. And it's not just Campanilla, it's all of Estacada. And everybody knows it takes an hour for an officer to get to us on a good day. So you throw a park in now where you're going to have all these kids and all this crime coming in. And it's not just Campanilla that's going to have to deal with this. This is all of Estacada. I have been around the world and I have never in my life seen a park like this in a residential area. It's just unheard of. I've seen it adjacent to it, but not right in the center. You're only asking for problem. And when you talk about the traffic issues, the baseball field, drive down that road.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's no way a security could get through there. There's no way a police officer could get through there. So
Thank you.
you've
Thank you,
got this
Julie.
area here and now you're bringing it in. I don't know who made this plan up, but I get that it was something that happened a long time ago. But I think now you need to consider the residential homes there now. There's other places to build this kind of stuff. We have a river. There's no need for a splash pad. There's a river kids can go to and play. You're putting up bathrooms, more bathrooms where, do you know what happens in bathrooms? I don't want to know what happens in bathrooms, but I don't want it in my backyard.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it. All right. We're going to have to wrap this up soon, so go ahead and give us your name and address.
So my name's John Miller. My address is 1603 Northeast Forest Park Street. I don't mean to reiterate stuff, but like when we bought our house, same thing. They told us that we were buying a premium lot from Jeff. I can get his last name from Polish. I'm a journeyman plumber and I worked there for a while. I quit and I'm working on big buildings downtown. Another concern I have is how are you guys going to do as far as you're going to have to cut into all the city drains, all the wastewater drains. So there's only two ways out as of right now of Campanilla. So there's Broadway and there's the back way. So are you going to close a whole side of that? My house is on the corner and I'm wondering, is it going to affect traffic? Like, how are you going to do that? What's your plan for drainage? Are you going to upsize it, oversize it? Because the parking lot can't, if the parking lot is close enough to that watershed, it'll drain into there. So are you going to have separate wastewater from clear water or rainwater?
Yeah, so
And
John,
then
I appreciate those questions. And
how many spots are there going to be, parking spots? Basically, my house is directly behind the parking structure or the parking set on the right. Are there
Yeah.
going to be 9 spots or are there going to be more? There's 9 on here.
So again, I'll just direct you to the revision. So whatever the revision is what the current plan is. How it ends up being, it remains to be seen. You asked a lot of plumbing questions. I'm not a plumber. So again, all of those issues, or what you're saying are issues.
Those are big city issues.
Again, I understand that's a responsibility for the city staff to make sure all of the drainage works, because again, there's always been a plan to have a park here. So, yeah,
So do you have any idea
that's
as far
why
as road-
parks cost money, because there's a lot of infrastructure that goes in to make them happen.
As far as road closure, do you have any idea so if you said months, so are they going to close that road for 9 months at a time in 3 months, and construction will go from Monday through Friday, 7 to 5? Do we have hours or anything of this? So I just had a 2-month-old daughter and we live
Yeah.
on the corner. So we're like super concerned. As of right now, where the public fence is, they don't weed any of that. That's supposed to be all ours, which I don't understand how, because we can't touch that fence for HOA. So privacy is a huge thing that we already went over.
Mhm.
And I was wondering so it says native plant restoration. What is a native plant restoration that's going to be a spacing between my house, the pathway, and the parking lot? What kind of plant is that going to be?
I don't know that I could tell you specifically. It will be a native plant that we place there for.
Is that like a bush though, or is that a tree?
Yeah. So John, all those details obviously haven't even been detailed. What we have right now is this drawing,
Okay.
okay, with these amenities, with this particular spacing. And I'm sure because of the input, these things are going to change. And again, all those plumbing issues, I guess I won't bet my life on it, but
That would be
the
for the
ci-
city, because
the city transportation and public works crew And ultimately, the contractor that puts this in would make sure all those issues are dealt with.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just trying to figure out if someone can like let us know as far as if you guys are gonna, because you were saying 3 months. So you'd think that you guys would already have permits for all that if you're
No,
gonna
no,
start
no.
breaking ground.
So I probably,
You said months.
what I said is there's nothing going to happen here for months. There's no shovels going into the ground this summer. It's months, okay? None of this has been approved by the Parks and Rec. None of it has been approved by the city council who makes the ultimate decision.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, being part of the budget committee, they budgeted money simply for this fiscal year, which starts July 1 to the end of June. They budgeted money, city council did, to once the plan is finalized, to do all the engineering. So rest assured, for the next year, nothing is happening in this space other than a lot of paperwork that's happening for engineering.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
So that will be the time frame. Nothing's happening this year. They budgeted money to, again, get plans in place so construction could start sometime in the future.
So probably at least a fiscal year from June. So I'll have time to sell my house.
Uh, Certainly. All right. We're going to go ahead and move. And let me just say, all the Parks and Rec Committee appreciates all the comments. And we've already, with the designer, made some adjustments, and I'm sure we can continue to make some adjustments. I think it's safe to say that there's going to be some sort of park in here because that's part of the city master plan. I think there's a way we can make it doable for the residents.
Oh,
Yeah,
we meet every month.
we meet every month, and we'd love to have you here. Yeah.
It will.
Yeah. So, yeah, so again, the city website will have the agenda for this meeting, and we meet this time every month. And so there's going to be an ongoing discussion. You'll be able to go to the city website. So all of the input you've given already has been heard and read, and the initial adjustments have been made, and I think there'll probably be some more. Okay? So,
Okay.
it's good input.
And I feel like we talked about it, but maybe it was just in my brain. Because like I said, I run in there all the time. I don't know if any of you see me, I've been off my running game, but I'm right there and I've thought that too, because there's a lot of people. Yeah. So also while you all are here, is it the HOA or the parks that's emptying those waste, the dog waste, are those ours? Do you know? Is it the park? Okay. Is it a city? Okay. So I would say let them know when they're overflowing.
We'll let them know. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on. And actually, you're welcome to stay because the Parks and Rec Committee will be talking about the revisions and that sort of thing. But first, on commission business is the Art in the Park report. So that happened on May 14th. And I'll let Gina give us a little bit of an update. I know that Vincent and Stephen were also there, so hope you guys can all make some comments. I helped set up and then I disappeared. So Gina, take it away.
All right.
Looks like there's one up here. Thank you. Appreciate you
I'll-
guys being here.
Thank you, everyone. We had more kiddos than we have in the past ever register for Art in the Park this year. It was a really good turnout. We had constant traffic of people buying things from the kids that were selling. It went really well. Overall feedback from people attending was, when's the next one? The only challenge, even with the weather raining at the beginning, we had so many people. The only challenge was at the end, kiddos started getting tired. People did pack up a little bit early because it was 3 hours. At about 1 o'clock, over half of the kiddos were packing up their stuff to go home. But other than that, it was great. And I'll let Stephen, I know his kiddo sold some stuff there. My child had a fun time and sold a lot. And Stephen, what's your input?
Yeah, it was great. It was it felt like a bustling community event, and yeah, it was a great time. I think the whole thing was just like a zero sum game where all the kids bought each other's artwork, but
And there was a lot of that.
there
Yes.
was a lot of no, but there were a lot of people came, and it was great how much artwork sold and how many people came out and supported. Yeah, it was basically the whole time. It was fun. The we stayed till the end, but we also, because there's a playground right there, sending kids out to play made it pretty easy. And also my wife and I took turns because I had to go home for a little bit. So but yeah, I did notice when I came back and came to take over the last shift, it was I think there was like 2 or 3 of us left, and
Yeah.
we still had like an hour to go.
So that's a thing to note, that maybe a shorter time frame, either starting later or finishing early, maybe 1 hour.
Yeah,
Vincent,
and
do you have-
yeah, and it seemed like most of the artwork had moved in that amount of time. So it's like we didn't actually need the 3 hours to get to whatever the volume was going to happen for the day happened in a 2 hour span.
Was the art commission booth well attended?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
The art commission, let's give them, they did such a good job. They had buttons for the kids to make. They had painting. They had a collage thing to do connected with the library. They did a really cool button that said like Art in the Park 2022 that kids could make, so they could have it for a souvenir, which was great. And it was constantly busy over there. They did a great job.
They basically babysat my daughter for the whole time.
All right, Vincent, do you have any comments?
No, I think I'm in the same bucket as you. I helped set up and tear down, and then went to the farmer's market and pick up some plants for the garden.
Okay.
So yeah, all
Right.
good.
Yeah, the extra canopies were definitely vital. Like I think didn't they all get used?
They did
Yeah,
all
they-
get used,
They all-
yeah.
That was good.
Good, good.
Yeah.
All right. Is that Kalika on the screen as well?
It is, yes.
Yep.
Hey, Kalika, I don't know how long you stayed. Any comments, just by way of getting it in the minutes by?
No, I was there for about an hour and it was great. Like all the pop-up tents, I'm glad it didn't rain, but having the pop-up tents made it look like an event, there was like a little
Yeah.
market that grabbed attention from the road that I think probably drew some people in as well.
Good.
It was a really fun event.
And Katie, or I'm sorry, Kalika, thank you for getting this thing going with the promo. I know I was kind of a little late getting it on our agenda to get that going. So thanks for stepping in and making it happen. Appreciate it. Well, looks like it was a well-attended event. So whether we do it at the same park or maybe a different park or whatever, we'll make sure we refer back to these minutes on shorten it a little bit, maybe. All right, if there's nothing else on that. So the Campanella Park design update. So I believe all of you have the revised layout. And we saw the other layout last month. And so I'm just going to highlight the changes that Stephen put in as the initial response to the comments that came into the city, both through the survey and all the emails. Even tonight, there were some questions on the sport court. And again, Stephen noted there's quite a few basketball courts outside in our community. And so that, what it shows there in the revised plan is actually 3 pickleball courts. And that takes up less space. I think one of the things to consider, do we make it 2 pickleball courts and take up even less space? But that's one of the adjustments. If you don't know what pickleball is, I guess it's like one of the fastest growing sports in the country. It's not just us old people, but I guess younger people like it as well.
Yeah, they learn it in school now. too.
Yeah, do they really?
They do.
Okay.
Mhm.
Maybe one of the main changes is you'll notice the relocation of the splash pad and actually a different potential design. And again, the splash pad, if we end up putting it in here, it can really be any design we want, but he just put, and remember last time it was just a circle. This is more of a creek sort of design with some rocks in it and that sort of thing. And I think he showed us a photo of that. Stephen did when he presented that last time. And then the cornhole area is gone, which even without any comment, that makes sense. Most people, when they're gonna play cornhole, have their own boards and they set them up. They're easy to transport. So this obviously doesn't eliminate having cornhole played in the park, but it wouldn't have a specific designated area. The other change is the playground. He actually put a particular design in there. And maybe I could just pause right here when we're thinking about the playground. Do we have a consensus that we would really love to see that all accessible playground in this particular park? Because I know the discussion started on this commission when we were talking about future parks up north.
Yeah.
In the north end of town, which wouldn't have as much space as this. So I don't know if you guys want to comment on your feelings about the all accessible, whatever the right term is for this particular park.
Yeah, I'll say, so I like how he worded it. He called it a universally accessible playground.
Okay.
I like that. But I think, things take a really long time. And I think waiting until we have something somewhere else is going to be a really long time. And I think it's something that people really need now. We have to meet like our park plan, we have the little kid playground and we have to have one for the older ages. So might as well, do it here. That's kind of my input.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Anybody else have any comments about this?
I would agree. I think that it would be good to have this playground if it was possible to move forward on that. With its location, the other park that we're talking about, I feel like was a little bit further outside of town. That would be
Right.
Maybe not as accessible overall. This one's in an area where it's relatively flat for the main part of town, where it's potentially walkable or easier to get to, and a bigger open flat space. But the timeline in particular would be good to have it sooner than later if we could work on that.
Yeah, and I think this park just in itself has more space. The park up to the north is going to be a much smaller facility. I haven't done a whole lot of research on the universally accessible parks. It might be that maybe there's, because of cost, less features, but all of them are accessible. And again, we can't even make that decision until we know what the price is, know if there's grants available. And I think Chrissy, that was speaking to us tonight, can help us with that.
Yeah, a huge part of it is the surface. It
Right.
has to be,
Right.
yeah, that's a major, because they can't even access anything that's there. And like I said, I've seen it with my own students. They can't even get over there where their friends are.
Right.
So.
I think that was the three major changes, or at least the two major changes, the sport court. And again, I mentioned that to the people here tonight, when you make that sport court smaller and just make it pickleball, you can put more of a space between the sport court and the residents there. And one of the things I asked Stephen, he and I and Melanie met as we looked over this, and I was wondering if we can even take that playground and move it more to the center, but he said, yeah, you're just getting into problems there. You really
the
have to
wetland.
stay kind of outside that orange walkway, or else you're going to
Mhm.
have some water problems in the wet season. So that makes sense, I guess.
Hey, Brent, just to clarify, I don't know if you know, but the orange pathway through, is that paved, or I thought
Mulch.
it's mulch? Yeah, it's right. It's not actually like, it's not asphalt or pavement,
Right.
or anything, right? Because I think one of the main points he was making when he made his presentation, he's trying to keep a lot of it like as like natural as possible, which is great. Like leaving like the existing tree canopy, and like you said, adding back like plants that are natural
Native.
to the area, native,
yeah.
all that stuff, and like potentially doing like plants that help like the pollinators in the area too. But yeah, I think because I just wanted to clarify that one point because I'm pretty sure it wasn't paved. I don't know if that doesn't really come across on the map.
Right, and one of the comments made tonight is why do we need another path through there when there's already that blacktop path? So obviously the mulch path would be easy to eliminate, but I don't think the mulch path is the problem that the residents have because that's not going to be loud and boisterous and it's going to be people walking on it. So it'd be easy to eliminate. I don't know that that mitigates any of the concerns that were mentioned.
Yeah, I was thinking about after looking at it last month, I and my husband and I were talking about like the upkeep of it and all of that. That is something that, we didn't necessarily ask for. We talked about the little circuit, the fitness things, but in my mind, originally they were just being added to the original path, like on the edge of that original paved path. So that is something for me too, that mulch path that I don't think, again, it's not going to address the concerns that we heard, but I don't think it's something that's needed. And I don't know what the upkeep would be to like continue to, so.
I think it actually would be a nicer feature, especially for like people who don't like run, being able to walk like actually through the trees and do all this stuff because it's much quieter than like people running on the pavement right behind the house. And that would actually take away a lot of the people running behind the houses if they ran on the mulch because they'd be running like 100 feet away from where the asphalt is. I don't know, but I think that would actually mitigate much more of the noise and everything because it would give them a better, because a lot of people don't like running on asphalt anyway, right? It's probably easier on their knees to run through the nature part of it, but
I don't know. It's an opinion. I'm definitely not running on the mulch path.
Yeah, I know if the two were next, I'm a trail runner like far and away, but if the two were next to each other, I would run on the paved one.
Yep, me too.
All right. I would love to have a dog park there because I have a dog, but I really get the neighbors' concerns. I've never seen a dog park that looked attractive.
Yeah.
My son lives right next to one. He has a dog. He loves the dog park, but in the winter it's muddy, and in the summer it's brown. And there's people don't pick up after their dogs, and even when they do, they leave the little plastic bag there. So that of all the concerns that I think are valid, it's like that dog park, I think is going to be a big eyesore.
I agree with you. And that wasn't on our original plan either. He put it in like as hey, we could put this here.
Yeah, and we do have options, and I mean, and a little further out, even though it's a fee park, is McIver, because they have like an awesome off-leash area. But
Timber Park has a fenced dog park too.
Yeah, Timber Park's got that one.
But it's funny, I don't know, just the way I don't know, I think about it, but you would think if the dog park, at least the designation, like calling it a dog park area is there, at least it would like concentrate the dogs in the area instead of them wandering throughout the park and people not picking up, after the dogs throughout the entire park. At least they're like concentrated in one single smaller section of the park. But again, just.
Yeah, and that's a good thought. And I guess my experience with the dog is some dogs you see on leashes being walked around, pooping where they shouldn't and not being picked up, probably shouldn't be in a dog park anyway, because they're not friendly dogs. So not every dog can go in a leash-free dog park. Of course, my golden retriever can.
I mean, and there's something just thinking out loud here, where that dog park was originally set up is like one of the few places that I don't think it is up against anyone's home.
There's a couple, well, right now it doesn't look like it as much, but there is now a house on the corner. Like it is.
Okay.
There's like 4 on the one side that are currently there. And then there are houses here now.
Yeah,
It looks like it, but there are houses there now.
There'd be 5 homes that are right next to the dog park.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking more of like, but I feel if I recall, there was like an area of there where if we're shuffling things around in response to some people's concerns. Is there some real estate that we could take advantage of by removing the dog park to put something in there that's not going to be up against anyone's house? Just it's a question. It's not a leading question. That's a genuine question.
Yeah, and yeah, there's lots of area that's still going to be developed within the city, as you know. And the first thing that came to my mind is behind the high school, there's a big sports complex that's going to be developed there. The city's partnering with that, but currently there's not any dog space, or there's not any city park areas planned for that. It's all school district land, and they're going to put some sports fields there. But I think, Stephen, that's maybe worth a conversation with the school district. Is there part of that that is not going to be used that, yeah, the city could utilize that way? And if Taryn puts that in a minutes, we can get that question asked of the school district.
What question?
Thank you, Taryn.
I will say this revision, so that where they put this other playground, I feel like it's scooted over more. It looks like there's like trees in between. And if you think about that, so that path, right? And then like, that's a pretty, like when you think about that area and when we started that run there, I feel like it's scooted pretty, I feel like you did a good job of scooting that away from the houses more. But
yeah, I do think the revision has made some great improvements. But here's the big question for us and city council ultimately. Some of the questions we heard were just about a park in general and what that does for crime, what that does about traffic. I don't know that I agree that just because there's more traffic, there's more crime. I don't know if that always goes together. And the one gal, I think her name was Julie, said she's never seen a park in the midst of a neighborhood. I'm thinking I've been to a bunch of parks in Portland that are surrounded by homes. So I don't know that this is a novel idea or even consistent with good city planning. You wouldn't normally put a park way out away from people because nobody's going to visit it then. So that was just some rambling there. I don't know. I wasn't necessarily trying to make a point other than I think this idea that there's a home surrounding a park is not out of line. I think it's our responsibility to make this as reasonable as we can for the homes that are there. Any comments? I'd love to hear comments.
I agree. When that comment was made about parks not being in neighborhoods, that's what I've seen that a lot. I didn't think it was a new idea. And I also was curious. So the crime thing, we experienced it up in our neighborhood too, which is right above this, and it's at night and it's cars driving through. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. This could bring more crime, but I don't know if it will or not. Like, I don't feel like I'm not a crime expert. You know what I mean? I feel like this is I'm gonna use this and I live here. I don't know how many, I think depending on what we put there, it brings in outside people, but like the people that are coming to the park to use the splash pad aren't gonna be people that are coming to have malintent.
No, usually like, families having like good, clean fun or like the antidote to, to any sort of like violent elements or the kind of people who are out to do something sketchy don't really enjoy the company of kids running around in families and stuff. And there is this thing that happens where it's like when people stop going to a park because they think that or an area because they think that there is too much crime going on, then it's like, then the element feels at home because there's no one around. But when you've got a park where families are showing up and their kids are there all the time, that's what the park is going to look like.
Yeah. I agree. And I mean, this is not Portland, and how she was saying, like the person that said she lived on 122nd, that's where I work. I work on 117th, very close to there. And I know that feeling, and that's definitely not, what we want to do here. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at like Happy Valley or something like that, where it's, same deal. It's surrounded by houses. It's a splash pad and stuff, and it's there's nothing weird going on there. It's families having a good time.
I do think we definitely need to look into like privacy
Yeah.
for these areas that are right near here. And that's very unfortunate that they were misled.
And my recommendation to the city manager, it's ultimately not my decision or our decision, but we might get further ahead in this if the city absorbs the cost of a privacy fence along the back of all of those homes. I don't think it would be exorbitant. I think we could probably absorb that and just say, we recognize this is what wasn't what you planned, so we'll absorb the cost of even just putting slats in the fence at this point. That wouldn't be too expensive. If it came to putting a new fence in, that's where the cost would be. Is it a 6-foot high fence?
I think it's 6 foot.
Yeah. So again, slats in there wouldn't make it absolutely private, but I think it would help quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's pretty flat, so it's not like they're up above looking. It's all pretty flat, so I think it would be helpful. I know it help with noise too.
Yeah, so I think we could make that recommendation to the city council. That's ultimately their decision if they want to bear that expense.
I was going to ask.
Oh, great.
Just with regards to the fence, it sounded like that was an issue with the HOA that was telling them that they couldn't build a fence, not necessarily that they couldn't afford it. Is that something that either the city or our commission could recommend or approach the HOA to support people who are living along the park to be able to have that? 'Cause it sounded like it wasn't so much.
That's right.
That it was that they wanted a fence and couldn't afford it, but it was part of their contract that they weren't allowed to have a fence. And so if we could support somehow to make that an option, and then potentially for the few houses that are right up against either the playground or whatever pieces of the park that are seeming most problematic, to then perhaps support that. But it's not
Sure. Yeah, that would be another way to solve the problem. And maybe that's just something we recommend to city council, solve this problem one way or the other, work with the HOA so that these people can put fences up or absorb the cost of putting slats in that fence. But yeah, so I think there's a number of ways to solve that particular issue. Just deciding how to best deal with that. The traffic issue, I think, again, is a valid concern that, again, I don't know what we can do about it. We're going to put a park in. That means there are going to be more people there. I guess we need to make sure there's as much parking as possible. And maybe, just a thought, maybe if there's no dog park there at that end, there can be another row of parking spots down there. Again, that's not right along the houses. It's right in the middle of that area. So that might be another way to make sure there's more parking so that the street parking doesn't become a problem. And I do agree that street going through the park, which is
It's Broadway.
Broadway. Yeah, if people end up parking on both sides of that street on a hot July day, it's going to be a nightmare. So there's going to have to be some way to enforce there is absolutely no parking here because it's a narrow street.
I like that idea, Brent, of adding more parking where the dog park is. I think people would say it's far away from the amenities, but then I think people that come there to walk and to run would park over there instead of where all the amenities are. So that would help.
Yeah, and for Mike just comments. I share the concern about the one person, I think the first lady who spoke about making sure that the environment, like the water and all that stuff, is protected and all that stuff. I don't truly think like crime would be too much of an issue in the parks. I mean, I think Estacada gets targeted a bit since we're just so far away. Like, if people are going to come here to do things, all we can do is, go to city council and tell them, we need more police officers. We need more of this so they can, add more cops to the budget and make people feel protected. Right. But, I think this revision is better because we did lose some stuff, and I think it's going more towards this, like more of like a nature park, which is nice, like especially for that way since it is in the community, it's a bit quieter. And then for my, I was surprised, when we were talking about this before. I was surprised, like it seems like the splash pad is really polarizing. Like a lot of people either really, really like it or they really, really hate it. So I think that may be a big one that we could just like maybe poll as many people in the community as we can and see like which way is the community really leaning for certain amenities. But I do like this revision since it seems like it's a much more calm, like walkable, like quieter park than it was with everything in it,
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, this splash pad idea has been in discussion for years now. I think if you took a survey, most of the people in this neighborhood would be against a splash pad. Everybody else in the community would love the splash pad because again, it's not something they're going to have to deal with other than going down and enjoying it. So ultimately that call becomes ours or city councils if they take whatever our recommendations are. Seems to me like where it's located now, I mean, as far as the noise factor, I mean, that is an ideal spot for that. It's not near, well, I guess there's one home that is somewhat close.
Yeah, it's when you think about how this distance though, I mean, that is pretty far.
Mhm.
And I liked the one, I can't remember what her name was, the safety concern about the parking lot being so close to that last splash pad before. That was a really valid concern that I had not thought of. And this is much better. It's much safer. But yeah, it's about as far away as you can get from houses there.
What about eliminating one pickleball court instead of having 3? There's only 2. That allows more space and would certainly potentially be less people there at one time. There's usually 8 people on a pickleball court at a time. So again, that might be an accommodation that will be helpful. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, and then if you take it off the one that's on the right, it makes them so they're further away from homes.
Sure.
There's no homes on the left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm in the camp of like, if they're truly going to get used, I think it's good for people to have the space to be able to do what they want to do, all that stuff. If they're, if they're really not going to use 3, I don't know. I've never played pickleball. I don't know who plays it. People, I don't know. But, if it's truly going to get utilized by the community, I think it's good to have. But if 2 suits our needs, then I don't see an issue with removing 1.
Yeah, it's something we've been asked for by
Right.
members of the community.
And again, people that love pickleball said, hey, we need 6 in there. So again, we live in a very diverse community, both age-wise and athletic ability-wise. So obviously we can't please everybody. I think our goal is to try to mitigate the concerns if we can, so that more people are on board with the development. So So I guess the suggestions I made that sound like, okay, we're eliminate the dog park and put maybe 6 more parking spaces down there. Eliminate one of the pickleball courts that allows more of a buffer, and then do all we can through trees or the berm or whatever to help with the sight and the sound. And then we probably need to get ahead of this as far as a universally accessible playground. And I think, I don't know, Gina, can I ask you to contact Chrissy and just say, how do we start?
Yeah, I can do that. And coming soon, I have a lot more time
Yeah.
to work on those things.
And then one of the things I'll pass on to you is what the Chamber of Commerce gave me as far as some grants that, I don't know how Christina got wind of those, but ways that we can help with that funding, because it will certainly be a more expensive process.
Yeah, I'll email Melanie and get the information for Chrissy and yeah. Do you have it too?
Okay, thank you. So then maybe it would be important for me to speak to the city council about those other concerns, meaning traffic, accessibility of the fire district. Just let them know, if they haven't read all these comments, that these are the concerns. And again, it's a concern for me. Certainly we don't want to put something in that can't be maintained and becomes unsafe. So I guess they need to understand that 2 years from now, when this starts being developed, that they're going to have to plan to make sure they have enough grounds crew to make sure this can be maintained, and not just halfway. I've been trying to emphasize to the city council in a number of different ways that the way the city grounds look has a lot to do with, I think, the attitude of the community. I think we're gaining some traction there, but again, this could be just a beautiful thing to look at, or it could be really sad to look at, depending on how it's maintained.
Yeah.
So again, that's a discussion I think we need to have with the city council even now.
Yeah. Well, I like that they brought up even like the pet waste thing, because if you think about it, the amount of homes in there has, I mean, doubled since those were put in. It's crazy. Every time I go down there, there's it like, I don't know how often they go out there. But
So there's some
That's a lot.
revisions that we can give back to Stephen, and there could be a different design. And again, we could get that on the website and continue to ask for comments on that. And then, Traren, I don't know the avenue to answer some of those other questions, whether one of the city staff can comment on the safety and the traffic and all of that. Yeah, maybe. Okay, talk to Melanie, and if I can help with that, obviously that's not my wheelhouse, but I can help communicate if necessary. So again, this isn't happening tomorrow. The only thing in the budget for this coming fiscal year, starting July 1, is $150,000 to find out how it actually would be put together, the engineering piece, which would then allow us to actually put a price tag on it. And then honestly, lots of things could change after that. I have no idea how much that splash pad costs.
yeah, we've had the price, I think 2 or 3 times now we've seen prices and they've changed drastically
Right.
because it's so far in between.
So again, for those even still listening online, this whole thing, while we're making yet another revision to accommodate the concerns, price may cause more revisions down the road. Okay. So we'll just keep moving this ahead and keep being open to the comments. Anything else on this particular agenda item? All right, we're going to move ahead. These next ones will probably be pretty quick. The adventure tour update, we actually changed the name of that. And again, this is a work in progress, and it's Stevens. And I don't know if you just want to share anything or just say check next month.
No, actually, I've been dedicating not as much time as I'd like to, but at least a couple hours of work a week, or have like the database system set up for it and stuff like that. I talked with Christina Richards, who sat in on one of our meetings recently, and then we had a Zoom call, and she was just kind of pointing me to some similar programs that are not online. The main one being the Track Trails program, and it was nice to look into it because it kind of validated that it's a program that already exists. It's kind of it's about getting kids, and I think maybe not just kids, but just people in general to go hiking on all these different trails, and it kind of gamifies hiking. And it's kind of the idea here is to basically take all the things that you can do around town and gamify it a bit in a way that makes you want to complete every level, go out and do all the things that we have to offer here, and just have the gamification itself is like a fun activity to add on top of all of it. And then we basically just talked over some ideas about like kind of presenting when you come in what the interface looks like and stuff like that, and kind of presenting the town as almost like, think of like how amusement park maps look. And we're kind of going for this look of like been sketching it out and starting to piece it together of it's Estacada. It's kind of a map of all the things you can do, but it looks kind of like an amusement park map.
Okay.
And so but by the time that we get to the next meeting, I think there's going to be a lot more to show, but
Cool.
it's been a lot of the under the hood stuff is beginning and coding and then putting things on
Alright.
paper. So
Thank you. Gamification. That's actually a word, is it?
yeah.
All right.
I
That's
like
a new
it.
one to me.
I
I'll
like
have
it.
to find out how to use that word sometime soon.
Usually it's not used in a good context, but
All right, it'll be good. Thank you, Stephen, for your effort on that. Concert in the park. First concert is June 22nd, Casimir Effect. It will be at Wade Creek Park on the stage, starts at 6 o'clock. I'll be working with Rob Gaskell to make sure the stage is set up in plenty of time for the band. We do have the cheer squad, I think, is doing hamburgers or hot dogs there. So there's going to be, they'll be doing it for 3 of the concerts. And then I think it was the boys soccer team that said they'd like to do something the other 2 nights. So we'll have food available, and I think that'll be cool. I was actually going to talk to the donut guy. I don't know if you guys have seen that donut thing that's on Fridays down by the post office. Those are excellent donuts.
Yeah, they're really good.
I'm going to let him know about it, see if he wants to come up there. That would be a little kind of dessert piece after the hot dogs or hamburgers.
yeah, those are great. We get those every Friday.
Yeah. So anyway, that should be a great time. Over the years, that particular band has had the greatest turnout because it's a local. So that should be a lot of fun. Hope you guys can block out time to be there. There really shouldn't be a lot of Parks and Rec responsibility other than set up, and the city delivers the stage and takes it away. So if there's anything else that comes up, I'll let you guys know that you might need help with. All right, the last thing is the code of conduct. All of you received that email concerning the code of conduct. I received it and actually I haven't looked at it too much.
I've got my signed printed one right here.
I guess I should lead by example. So anyway, read it over. They're wanting us to sign it to make sure we understand how we should conduct ourselves.
Yeah.
Any questions on that?
No.
No.
Nope.
I actually read the whole thing.
All right, you're way ahead of me.
Gold star.
And it made me wonder what instigated it. Like I said, some of these, it was like, did that happen?
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure the background of that either, but we will comply.
Yeah.
And commend you. We don't have any problems with how we conduct ourselves as far as the way we interact. So let's keep that going.
Yeah.
We'll be an example for the city council. Okay. Commission report and comments. Anything anybody wants to share?
We who I think online have comments or questions. I'm not sure. Got her hand raised.
Col-
Can we hear you like?
You were
Okay,
frozen. I don't think anyone heard that.
yeah, so there's some more hands raised. I'm gonna go ahead and take those. It's not another place in the agenda for that, but those of you that are listening, if you can be really brief, I would appreciate it. So who's up first here? Evan. Thank you, Evan. What do you have to share with us?
Hi, my name is actually Amanda. My husband is Evan.
Okay.
I just wanted to share a bit of concern, just your guys' tone toward our safety concerns. Yes, I understand parks attract families, right? That's the whole idea, right? We want to put a park here to attract people to Estacada, but why this neighborhood? Estacada is such a large place. Just seems like a very random spot to put a city park when we literally are out in the country, you know? And also to that point, you know, Vincent, you made a comment earlier about making people feel protected, but people need to be protected. And so I think our concerns with the safety are we don't have a dedicated police force out here in Estacada, and parks tend to attract pretty scummy people at night. I used to live in Portland. That's why we moved all the way out to Estacada. I commute an hour to and from work every single day in downtown Portland because I was so tired of what Portland had become. And my concern is that having a city park and trying to attract more people is just, we're trying to turn Estacada into Portland now. And not having a dedicated police force, it takes the Clackamas County Sheriff an hour to get out here. So, you know, if they're not patrolling in the actual city. And so I think our concerns with safety are completely valid, and they kind of feel a little bit invalidated by you guys. And I really think that that is something that needs to be higher on the priority list when it comes to the planning of this park.
Well, we appreciate that. Yeah, I hope none of us came across in a dismissive way. It's just, I guess, trying to balance the concerns of having a park and then making everybody safe as well. But I will say again, I will be having a discussion as the chair of this committee with the city council, addressing all of these concerns and letting them know, really, it's on them that if our master plan calls for a park, we need to make sure we have staff or officers to make it safe. So I will be following up on that. Thank you again.
We just
for
don't
your
want to become
comments.
Portland, so.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's my concern.
And there's nobody on this commission that wants to be Portland.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your comments.
Yeah.
Just as a comment, I think, so we were talking about the police stuff yesterday on the budget committee.
Right.
It did sound like, I'd really try to clarify this with, I forget what the lady's name was with the beginning.
Melanie. Yeah,
Melanie.
I think it was Melanie. Yeah.
She made it sound like very like the new police like officer, we're going to be like stationed like very close proximity to the city. I try to make that as clear as possible when I was talking to her, and she, if I misheard her, but it sounded like they're really trying to get the police in a much closer proximity to us, just
Yes.
as basic, you know. Again, it's probably more of a city councilor question, but I'm from what I understand from yesterday, they really are trying to get more of a police presence in the city. It just has
And I being at a number of city council meetings, that has been a high priority for the city council. So yes, I can affirm that as well. All right, there's a few more that want to make a comment. Hey, Natalie, you're back.
Hey, yeah. I was just listening to everything that you guys had to say in regards to the revisions of the park. And some of the discussion that you were having, I think, is something that I don't want to speak on behalf of all of our neighbors, but I would like to say, as far as the park goes, if this is something that you guys are adamant that needs to be added to our neighborhood specifically, I think a lot of us would find it beneficial if you guys err on the side of, you know, less is more. And I don't say that to be cliche. I say that because I believe the park, even with the revision that has been added, is still very over concentrated. And I honestly think that you could do, you know, do away with the sports courts. I think we have more than enough in Estacada. Doing away with the dog park. And then if that universally accessible playground is something that's very important to the community, possibly putting that down where the dog part is, eliminate a bunch of the parking that you guys have. Additionally, putting everything concentrated on one end of the neighborhood, virtually on that Broadway street, is gonna have so much traffic on that one end. And virtually making those changes is what's going to be able to eliminate a lot of that, as well as congestion. I just think you'll get a lot more, like, I feel like you'd get a better, use of that area if you're not putting so much concentrated in one spot.
Yeah. Thank you, Natalie. That's not a bad thought, putting the pickleball courts down at that other end. So thank you for that. That's a good idea. Appreciate your comments. Hey, I don't know your name, but go ahead.
Hi, my name is Addie, and I didn't get to voice all my concerns and everything earlier, but I'll just say that I agree with everything that everybody had said. And I had also sent an email into, I believe her name was Melanie,
Yeah.
And got that one generic response. So the only things I'm going to say right now are just a couple questions that I had of, I want to send another email into her to voice the, additional things that I heard tonight and any other concerns and suggestions that I have, but I don't know how far that's going to get me with another email. Is that going to go to you guys again? Then you're going to address it at the second meeting in June 22nd?
Yes, every email that you send in will end up in front of us.
Okay. And I plan on coming to that meeting as well, but I just want to make sure that the questions that I bring up again and the additional ones are going to actually maybe have more answers to them, because I never got any, and you guys are somewhat answering some of them tonight. So I guess my question is, how many meetings are we going to have until you have a final plan for what the park is going to look like? How many revised plans are we going through? And is it only the Parks and Recs that's reviewing it at this time before it goes to council?
Yes, that is our responsibility as parks. So there will be our final decision to present something to the city council, and then they have the final say. I have no idea how many meetings that will take. I think it depends a little bit on the continued input and if we're making some progress in trying to make this a little more doable for everybody. Again, there's no plans for any construction in this park this next fiscal year, again, which starts July 1. So the only thing we're planning to do is hopefully in this fiscal year, which again is it's at this point 13 months from now, to have some sort of final plan that city council can approve so we can begin the engineering process.
And the engineering process would begin in July of 2023. So you have this whole next fiscal year to figure out the plan.
Yeah, that's probably not accurate. The money budgeted for the engineering is for this next fiscal year, which starts July 1 and goes to end of June. So the city council's plan in even budgeting that amount, it was be to at least have the engineering done by July 1 of next year. That makes sense? Yeah.
And you said the budget for the park right now is, was it 150,000?
Yeah, sadly, that's only for the engineering. We have no idea what this park with the amenities that are in it now would cost. So again, that will be another factor in determining what goes into it. And we don't know what anything costs till we have engineering. So there's this really frustrating process cities go through. To determine costs, you have to actually spend a significant amount of money to find out how much stuff's going to cost to go in, because developers or park people have to know what they're going to be building. So we're going to have to spend $150,000 to find out what it would cost for us to get this park in.
Okay. Thank
you. All right. I think we got one more.
Oh, nope, that's it.
All right. Hey, Katie, thank you for being here. I think you're still there. Appreciate your presence. So you,
Oh, good call, Taryn.
thank you. We would need to have that another day.
Mhm.
Should we move it back a week? Does that work? Next one, if we moved it forward, or we could move it forward to the 29th. Anybody have any preferences?
I didn't hear what she said.
So
Yeah,
the-
our next planned meeting is the same night as the concert in the park. So maybe we move it to June 29th instead of the 22nd of next month. Would that work for everybody? Or at least most of us, a quorum, we would need to have 3 here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
we're
believe
leaving-
so.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
All
We'll
right.
still be here that day. We're leaving the next day for vacation.
Thank you, Taryn, for noting that.
Good job.
Okay, appreciate that. All right. Hey, it's been,
Can I make one quick
please, Vincent,
comment?
go ahead. Yeah.
I think it might be worth just for like everyone's like, especially for like citizens, like our clarification of like our actual what we actually do
Yes.
for the park, because it seems like there's some general confusion. Like, if I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like our main purpose is seeing what the community thinks about the different amenities and making recommendations to city council, but like I don't like the park, again, correct me if I'm wrong, the park doesn't like live or die by our opinion. That at the end of the day, city council is making the final call on essentially everything. We're just making recommendations based on what we hear from the community, correct?
Correct. We are an advisory board. We're not necessarily a decision-making board as far as the final answer. We will advise the city council based on the community input and our vast wisdom and knowledge of the next best step.
I agree though, in a way with what Vincent was saying, more like, I didn't want people to feel frustrated that we couldn't answer their questions about things like park, like we don't control, like we give input and we've talked about before our concern about parking on the road.
Right.
Like we don't control if that becomes no parking, you know what I mean? So I agree with that, Vincent. I don't know how we would go about
Yeah, and again,
doing
that
that.
for those of you still listening, the concerns that are beyond us will be directly stated to the city manager and or the city council in one of their future meetings. So they're well aware that these are problems they're going to have to deal with that are not in Parks and Recs realm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. I just wanted, for people's sake, I wanted them to make sure like that they know the correct outlets to go with their very specific concerns. Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Vincent. All right, good meeting. I appreciate you guys going a little bit longer. Any other comments? We good to go home? All right. Thank you,
Done.
Taryn. Thank you, guys. We're adjourned.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See ya.